So, so far this year we've had a series of 6 talks on what happens when we die. They were very good. And then we've just done a series on steps to living a Dharma life. And one of the key parts of that was really looking at how our mind creates the world in which we live in, and taking responsibility for that. And sometimes it's even just noticing what world have I created with my mind states. Yeah. So I thought we'd have a little break from that kind of those kinds of teachings, and have a night a bit more reflective. We'll have some discussions as well, and with some devotion and ritual. So first off, I'm going to tell you a story. So be seated comfortably. I'm going to tell you a story, and I think I'll probably see how long that goes for. You never know, it might go for a long time, might go for a short amount of time, and then we'll see what we'll do from that. And then we'll have our usual tea break, and then we'll come back and look at ritual and devotional practices with the puja. Yeah, so do be comfortable. Yeah, do be comfortable, because I'm going to tell you the story of the great king Ajatasattu, and he lived at the time of the Buddha. He lived at the time of the Buddha. And he was the king of 2 kingdoms, can't remember one, but he was the king of Magadha. And one time at the Fitzwilliam Museum, they had a great exhibition of coins, and you could go and handle some of the coins. And I was handling a coin from Magadha, and I thought, oh, maybe this has fallen on dirt where the Buddha's foot, on the Buddha's footprint somewhere. It was a few hundred years later, but I've got a good imagination. Yeah. So King Ajatasattu. So the setting is the great city of Rajagraha. And it's a festival night, actually. It was the last full moon of the rainy seasons. So the rainy season is 3 months of monsoon, and people tended to stay put. And in particular, the homeless wanderers, including the Buddha and his followers, would take the time to have a 3-month rainy season retreat. So they'd find a really beautiful spot, and they'd stay there, and they'd sort of be going into the local towns or villages to sort of gather alms. And it was really, they would do some teachings, but it was really about them sort of going deeper into meditation and deeper into community living, really. So it was the last full moon of this rainy season, and the city of Rajagraha was resplendent with light. So it was a full moon, it was a time of celebration. And the city was marked with, adorned with torches and other sort of flames as part of this sort of celebration. And King Ajatasattu was on the veranda of probably one of his many palaces, and he was on a gold throne surrounded by his ministers, so surrounded by the court. And it was late. And King Ajatasattu often stayed up late because he found it hard to sleep. He was a man with troubles and worries. His mind was agitated. His mind was filled with tremors, with sort of gruesome, dreamy hallucinations that made it very, very difficult for him to feel rested and to feel calm in himself. He had a mind afflicted. And why did he have a mind afflicted? because he came to be king through the killing of his father, the other great king, King Bimbisara. So of course he didn't do it himself, he had his henchmen go out to do it. So not everybody knew that how he'd come to power, although I guess in these sorts of tales people often do know, don't they? But he didn't own it himself. But he was afflicted because of this patricide. He'd killed his father for the throne. He'd killed his father for power. He'd killed his father for his own gain. His father, who was a good king, who was a king who was loved. So Ajatasattu was greatly disturbed in his body so that he couldn't sleep and he couldn't rest, and disturbed in his mind, which was constantly turning over with fear and worry. Fear and worry and panic. Yes, he could not sleep, he could not be peaceful. He became tremulous, it says, restless and jittery, like a young elephant pricked with a sharp iron stake. So this is Ajatasattu. And he could not find any support, even for a moment. He could not find steadiness, and he could not be firm. So he is not in a good way. What he thinks is, I'd really love to see the Buddha. I'd really love to see the Buddha. His father, Bimbisara, was a great follower of the Buddha. But Ajatasattu turned against everything to do with his father. But he knows that it's the Buddha who can answer his question. But he can't just say it out loud. He's filled with so much fear, maybe he can't see the Buddha. He's got all this fear. So he says to his ministers, it is a lovely evening, what a beautiful evening, and he extols the virtues of this beautiful full moon evening. It is a great evening for hearing the wisdom of wise teachers. Who among you has a wise teacher that I could visit? Now amongst his ministers is his wise physician Jivaka. Jivaka was also the physician to his father and is also a follower of the Buddha. So King Ajatasattu really wants to hear from Jivaka, but he's too frightened and afraid, so he sort of puts it out sort of more widely. And of course all the ministers sort of come forward with their favourite teacher. And Ajatasattu has been to see them all. He knows them all, he knows what they're going to say. But anyhow, he listens to his ministers. Oh, go and see my favourite teacher. He teaches this, that and the other, and he'll be a great person to see on this night. Oh, no, great King Ajatasattu. My teacher teaches that this will happen and you can practice like this, and this will bring you liberation from such and such. And Ajatasattu has to hear them all through. And he's thinking, when is Jivaka going to speak? Because he's the one I want to hear from. But Jivaka thinks, if I speak too quickly, I will have to then sort of get into this battle with people about whose teacher is best. I'm going to hold my counsel and wait till they've all spoken. And then I will talk about the Buddha. And Ajatasattu thinks, Jivaka, like his master, is silent and calm and doesn't rush into things. Yet he is the one I want to hear from. So he hears from everyone. And finally he says to Jivaka, I haven't heard from you. And Jivaka stands up and he says, well, my teacher is the great Shramana, the Buddha. He actually is living quite close here in a great mango grove, which Jivaka has donated to the Buddha and his monks. Sir, you could go and see him this very night if you wish to. Finally, Ajatasattu has this kind of permission, and he thinks, I want to go with Jivaka. I'm too scared to go on my own. I want Jivaka to take me there. So he says to Jivaka, "This is great, Jivaka. I shall go and see the Buddha. Prepare what needs to be prepared." So they all stand up, and in the text, it seems like this doesn't take very long at all. But then you read who's going, and it's the whole sort of court. So it's all the women, and they take something like 500 elephants with torches and all sorts of things. And the king is extremely paranoid, so he wants Jivaka right next to him. But he also dresses up all the women as men, because then actually, as I say that, I forget exactly why, but there's sort of something about the men are more dangerous, but the women are less dangerous, but they need to be dressed up as women, that need to be dressed up as men, so that people think he's really well guarded. You know, he's getting into quite convoluted mental states here. So he takes this great retinue of people. I don't know how long it takes for them to all get ready. I figure it's another full moon when you read the text, you think, how can you? But another whole full moon, it sounds like, before they can all get ready. But the elephants are decorated, the elephants are made ready, and then finally all the court, but all his wives, all the old women, all the young women, everybody is ready. And then there's archers and musicians. And in fact, it's said that even if you were to sort of shoot an arrow from the back try to get to the front of the procession, your arrow would not get as far. That's how many people are on their way to see the Buddha, with King Ajatasattu, who just wants to ask a simple question. But Jivaka says to him, as they sort of set off, he says, "We must be quiet." The Buddha and the 1,250 monks who were there with him, they're all in silent meditation at the end of this full moon night. We must go silently, we must go quietly, not to disturb the peace of the Buddha and his followers who are there meditating through the night. So the musicians don't play, and they make their way silently, however long it takes, through to the beginnings of a great forest. So they've made it to this sort of the edge of the great forest, but they of course can't take their elephants any further. So the king needs to dismount. He needs to get down off his great elephant, and he goes with Jivaka into the forest to find the Buddha. And as they walk through, the king gets more and more nervous, because if there's 1,251 people in there, he can't hear anything. He can't hear any monks. He can't hear a sneeze. He can't hear a squirm. It's impossible. How can so many people be in this great forest? And he starts to doubt Jivaka. Is Jivaka actually leading him into a trap and is going to kill him? So he turns to Jivaka. What are you leading me to, Jivaka? Are you leading me astray? And Jivaka sort of comes back and says to him, No, great king, I am taking you to the Buddha. And they go a bit further, and he asks again, is this a trap, Jivaka? Can I trust you? And he says, the Buddha is quiet. The Buddha is quietly meditating. But look, we can start to see the glow of the torches in the pavilion where the Buddha is. It's kind of like the torches are also the light of the Buddha, the light of the meditators, the light of their minds in a way. Go forward, king, and you will see the Buddha. So eventually the king sort of moves forward, and he can see all of the monks and all of the Buddha, and they're so quiet, they're so calm. There's a serenity in this forest, and the king feels it deeply in his heart. And the first thing he thinks of is his son. It's a sort of way, isn't it? You sort of think of someone that you love, and you think, oh, I hope my son will have serenity and calm like is found here in this gathering. Yeah. And he makes his way to the Buddha, and the Buddha knows the king is there, and the Buddha knows that he's thinking of his son. So they have to wait a while. Good for a king to wait. And eventually the Buddha opens his eyes and he looks up at the king. And maybe the king has to sort of get down to see the Buddha. He does bow to the Buddha. And in the text there's this sort of slight convoluted thing of, well, if he turns to bow to the monks, then he'll be putting his back to the Buddha. But he wants to bow to the monks. Anyhow, I don't know how he works it out, but he manages to bow to the Buddha and to the monks without giving offence to the Buddha by turning his back. So that's very important. And then I guess he sits down to one side, as you do. Sit down to one side, and he has a question for the Buddha. He says, his question is, he looks around, he can see all these monks. His question is, well, actually, it's great here. I'm going to find it in the text because it's a bit long. He says, "Glorious Buddha, there are many skilled occupations and craftspeople. They belong to warriors riding elephants, warriors riding horses, warriors riding chariots, archers, flag bearers, military strategists, commandos who slip behind the lines of opposing armies and cut off enemies' heads, princes distinguished in fighting, daredevils who make speedy attacks on the enemy, warriors who are valiant like bull elephants, very brave warriors, warriors clad in armour, trustworthy servants, cooks, barbers, those who bathe other people, it's a job, butlers, flower stringers, laundry workers, weavers, makers of reed mats, potters, mathematicians, and those who count by their fingers. Besides these, there are many other similar craftspeople. These people live long, profiting by their skills. By means of their skills, they make themselves, their parents, their wives and children, and their friends comfortable and vigorous. Moreover, they give alms to monks and Brahmins, so as to be reborn in the Deva world in the afterlife." So you've got this sort of picture of the world at that time, all these different things that you could be. You could be a mathematician, or you could be someone who counts on their fingers. You could be a potter, and you could be a warrior on an elephant. All these different ways of earning a living, and they can look after their families. They look after their children and their friends, look after their communities. And he says, "Exalted Buddha, can you point out the benefits of a monastic life, like those skilled occupations, benefits which one can realize by himself in the present life?" So I think it's a good question. It's a good question for me. It's a good question for us as well. What are the benefits of living a Dharma life, in a way? So in this particular scenario, it's particularly about giving everything up and becoming a monk or a nun, which seems a bit useless, I think, by the way he's sort of phrasing it. He's sort of contrasting all these useful people and this kind of other life, which seems, what's the point, is really what he's asking. Yeah. So this is the question he's put to the Buddha, and he has put this question to many of the other teachers that he's met over the time, and the Buddha, of course, knows this. So the Buddha could answer immediately, but he throws it back to King Ajatasattu, and he says, "Well, you've asked this question to other people. What have they said to you?" And the king says, "Well, when I've asked these other teachers, they don't answer my question directly. They evade my answer. I ask them what it's like to taste a mango, and they tell me about something else, like another fruit, And so they've sort of, like a good politician, they've evaded the question. And so the Buddha says, listen, and I will tell you what the advantages are. So, the first advantage is that if you were a slave, the sort of, somebody who was really bound in their work, even if you were a slave but you became a monk, then once you were a monk or a nun, the king would respect you. So you've gone from sort of bonded labour, where you're sort of not free, to having a monastic life where even the king would respect you after ordination. And then he says, and of course, if you were a farmer before, you would be paying taxes to the king. Well, once you're a monk, actually, king and other people will be making donations to you. So, you sort of got an advantage there as well. So that's a good thing. But these aren't the main advantages of becoming a monk or a nun. But it's interesting that the king has sort of sat down at the feet of the Buddha. He's sort of honoured the monks and the Buddha. So it's right that the Buddha sort of brings these aspects of life, of the ordained life, forward first. But he says the higher advantages of monkhood is that where whoever you are inspired by faith, you practice morality, and then you have the benefits of that life. So, of course, living a more ethical life, you have a clearer conscience, don't you? So immediately there's a sense of having a relaxed mind. You can sit easy with yourself when you when you know that you're following an ethical life to the best of your ability. You can relax in yourself, something that King Ajatasattu cannot do. And then you become aware of what you're taking in, so you guard your senses. So you're aware of where you're putting your attention. And then through mindfulness, you become easily contented. You know what your hindrances are and where your mind gets caught up. And then through having an easy, pliable mind with fewer distractions, you can then enter deeper meditative states. So you go through into deep meditative states, first part, and from these you gain wisdom. So you gain insight and knowledge. You get penetrative knowledge of the mind of others, of things appearing and disappearing, the flow of conditions, and seeing how things play out, perhaps how actions have consequences, and not only for yourself but for others, and how all conditions come and go in this great flow of conditionality. And then you are freed from all the sort of the mental entanglements that your mind has been caught up with, and your mind is free. So you gain true knowledge of reality, and get into progressively higher and more extraordinary states of knowledge and wisdom, and into a release of the mind into true freedom. So this is the Buddha's answer to King Ajatasattu. On one level, you can sort of have ordinary contentments, but it gets progressively higher and higher, until actually, with the practice of meditation, with the wisdom and the insights that come from that, you can be truly liberated and truly free. So Ajatasattu listens to all of this, and he takes it all in. and he knows it to be true. He can feel from the Buddha, you can feel from the monks, everyone sort of gathered there, that this is true. And he also really appreciates that the Buddha answers his question directly. And he says, overwhelmed with ecstasy arising from the contemplation of the Buddha's attributes, the king clearly shows his faith in the Buddha, Dharma and the Sangha. And he takes refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. So King Ajatasattu is then taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and he's now a sort of follower of the Buddha. He's putting his faith in the Buddha. And he gets up quite quickly and he says something like, I can't hang around, I have things to do. He's kind of galvanized. He wants to live his life differently. And so he gets up, he bows to the Buddha, bows to the monks, and probably, I'd imagine, he bows to Jivaka, and they go back through the forest, back onto their elephants, and he goes back to being the king. And everyone, is taking delight in what's just happened. And the Buddha thinks to himself, and he says to the others, he says, oh gosh, so great was Ajatasattu's understanding. He really understood what I was talking about. But he's still caught up. He's impeded because he has killed his father. This great, this sort of great weight is on his mind, something that he can't undo. And so that is hindering him from really sort of being, really like hearing the teaching and being sort of truly sort of freed by it. In the early stories of the Buddha, often people come to the Buddha and the Buddha will give a teaching, and if it was only like that for us, people understand immediately and they sort of gain freedom of mind and become enlightened sort of there and then. A sort of a knowledge, a sort of resonance with what the Buddha said has really sort of opened up in them, and they're sort of free in that moment. They let go and they've understood what the Buddha said. So and what it says here is the Buddha sort of says if you so the Buddha, I've missed a crucial bit in a way, because it is the king hears this and he says to the Buddha, this is a crucial bit, he says to the Buddha, I killed my dad. I murdered my father for the throne. And so he confesses. He tells the Buddha what's most on his mind. Like laying down a great burden that he's been carrying around. He finally sort of tells somebody what it is that's causing him so much emotional and mental disturbance. And the Buddha hears this from him. So that is actually really important. And he says, O King, you are indeed overwhelmed with guilt arising from your foolishness, confusion and ignorance. You have killed your father, the great monarch, who practiced justice and ruled righteously. This offence is forgiven because you admit it and make amends for it. If a person admits their offence, atones for it accordingly, and guards themselves against it in the future, then such atonement and self-restraint means spiritual progress under my system of teaching. So it's sort of making that confession, sort of seeing clearly what you've done, and standing in that own experience, especially against somebody who's before someone who's wiser than you, that you really, really respect, and you have to sort of stand there. We've all done it, I'm sure, and with someone that you respect and say, "This is what I've done," and stand in that, and they kind of see your foolishness, and there's some freedom in that, isn't there? You're sort of showing yourself to someone that you respect, and there's a sort of it's called positive shame in Buddhism, but he stands there with the Buddha. But the Buddha says this atonement, and then stepping onto the path means spiritual progress under his system of teaching. So it doesn't sort of mean that it's all wiped clean, but he's sort of started on the path. That's what guarantees spiritual progress. So, and then Ajahn says, "Well, Venerable Sir, we will go now. We have many things to do." And the Buddha says, "O King, you may go as you wish." Yeah. And the Buddha says, "Monks, the king has destroyed his own position. Monks, if King Ajatasattu had not killed his father, King Bimbisara, the righteous monarch, the wisdom the wisdom path would have occurred to him right on the spot." So he would have sort of gained freedom of mind right on the spot, but his mind is still caught up. He hasn't sort of got the ability to sort of really let go because of the great weight of what he's done. Yeah. But he's on the path. He's on the path, and he will have sort of a liberation of mind. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot in this lovely story. There's the disquiet of the mind of King Ajatasattu. There's his own sort of physical disquiet, his mental disquiet, his emotional disquiet, and it's really contrasted with the serenity and the stillness of the Buddha and his followers. And that's what I really love about the story, actually. Sadly, King Ajatasattu's son goes on to kill him. His son goes on to kill him. And his son goes on to kill him. Yeah, it carries on. He started something which takes a long time to unravel. And maybe you can see that through generations. But also sometimes in our own lives, I've started something that it has to unravel in its own time. There's patience and humility needed, isn't there, just to be with that and let the karma vipaka, the fruits of my former actions, let them roll out, and be patient and kind, knowing that something's already in motion, and my job, my role is to just stay with the practice, stay with myself, and bring awareness and wisdom perspective to what's going on, if I can. So I guess I was reading that story because we'll do a puja after the tea break, but we were talking. Artisidy and I were sort of in a cafe, as we sometimes are, and talking about the Buddha, and talking about inspiration. The Buddha as a sort of as the Buddha as possibility, really, and the Buddha as an inspiration. And I guess the question I sort of want to throw out is, what does the Buddha represent? What is that possibility for you? What are you? If you were to see the Buddha, if you were to sort of go and meet the Buddha, and you were asking him this question about what's the advantage of engaging in a spiritual life, engaging in a Dharma life. What do you think his answer would be to you? There's this whole thing of the sort of the sort of contrast between the sort of agitation and calm of the Buddha and King Ajatasattu. What do you think he would say to you? So we don't have tons of time for big discussion, but maybe you could just turn to somebody just in pairs, and maybe that you do have a sort of sense of what your question might be to the Buddha. We've just got 5 minutes to do that, but it's probably good just to bring out a little bit of something from the story that sort of grabbed you. If you were meeting the Buddha, what do you think, if he was talking to you, what do you think he'd say about the benefits of practicing the Dharma and engaging in the spiritual life? What do you think you need to hear? So let's just get into pairs and just see where that gets you.